My sister called me selfish after I stopped paying her bills, and now her husband threatening me. I laughed and sold their car. At family dinner I shocked them, and then parents. I never expected things to go the way they did, especially with Amy's sister and her husband. I mean, for 7 years I had been helping her pay her bills. 7 years? I paid their rent when they fell behind. I paid for the kids' school clothes, sent extra money when there was an emergency, and helped with everything in between. I didn't really think much about it. I figured, she's my little sister, you know? You take care of your family. Meanwhile, her husband, Matt, was always off doing God knows what. Technically, he was between jobs. Always. But somehow he managed to spend a lot of time at the casino. He'd always swear that he was on the verge of a big change, that he had clues about work and that things were going to get better. Amy believed him every time. But deep down, I think she relied on me more than she'd ever admit. She always knew I'd be there for her. I guess for her, I was the safety net that would never break. But that safety net started to fray when I met Lauren. She saw through the whole situation. We'd only been dating a few months when she asked me one night, "Why are you working yourself to death just to support someone else's family?" At first I was defensive. I told her it wasn't like that I wasn't working for her. But she just gave me this look, like, "Come on, Ethan." And that's when it hit me. I had been making sacrifices, big sacrifices, for years without realizing how much it was costing me. I wasn't saving like I should have. I had my own goals, dreams, plans, but they were always on hold because I couldn't say no to my sister. Lauren made me realize it was time to change. So I did. I went to Amy's house to tell her and Matt that I wasn't going to send them any more money. I wasn't expecting a thank you or anything, but I wasn't expecting what came next. As soon as I told her, Amy lost it. She screamed at me and called me selfish. She said I was acting like a stranger, not a brother. "You have always helped us. Why are you stopping now? What's wrong with you? You can't just abandon your family like that." I tried to explain that I wasn't abandoning anyone, that I had to focus on my own future. But she wouldn't listen. That's when Matt walked in. He must have overheard part of the conversation because he came right up to me and said, "Are you kidding me, man? Keep paying. She's your little sister. Who else but you? You know it's not nice to ask your parents for money." That was his big point. It wasn't about how they would find another solution or make things work without my help. No, he just expected me to carry on as usual. He acted like it was my responsibility forever. Like supporting them had become my job. I laughed. I couldn't help it. "You've got some nerve," I told him. "You don't work, you waste money in the casino, and you expect me to finance your life? Nah. I'm done." Then I hit him with the kicker. "Oh, and by the way, I'm selling the car I bought you. Since you don't have the money for the payments, you can start walking." They both started yelling at me. Amy begged me not to do it, saying I was being cruel. Matt started cursing at me, acting like he wanted to fight me. I didn't even flinch. I told them, "Sorry, but I have a wife now. I have to think about my future. About my children and my business. I'm not sending you $600 a month until I'm in my grave." I walked out while they were still screaming. I had never felt so free. 2 days later my parents called. They said we needed to have a serious talk and invited me to a family dinner. I knew what was coming. They were going to try to pressure me to change my mind. Before I left, Lauren told me, "Don't let them guilt you. Be above them." She was right. But I wasn't ready for how crazy things were going to get. I showed up at my parents' house that evening expecting to be ambushed. Sure enough, when I walked into the dining room, Amy and Matt were already there. My parents were sitting quietly at the table, as if this was some kind of intervention. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Amy wasted no time. "Ethan, you can't be serious," she began, her voice shaking. "You really want to sell our car? How are we supposed to get the kids to school?" Matt jumped in, trying to play the victim card. "We're struggling, man. You know that. You've always helped us. What's changed? You've got plenty of money, why can't you help a little longer? I leaned back in my chair and shook my head. Plenty of money? I asked. You think working 60-hour weeks, giving up my weekends, and not taking vacations means I have plenty of money? You have no idea what it takes to keep things running on my end. You're acting like a stranger, Amy snapped. Not a brother. Matt followed with his usual nonsense. You're being cold, man. Family doesn't turn its back on family. I looked at my parents, who were still sitting there in silence. I could tell they were waiting for me to just give in. I had always been the good son, the one who didn't rock the boat. But this time I wasn't going to cave. Here's the deal, I said calmly but firmly. I'm picking up the car tomorrow. I've got a buyer lined up, and once that's done, I'm out. No more money. No more bills. Nothing. That's when Amy broke down in tears. She began begging our parents to intervene. You can't let him do this to us. Please tell him he can't just leave us. I thought my parents would take her side. My dad cleared his throat and finally spoke. Amy. Matt. Ethan is right. The room fell silent. I couldn't believe it. Neither could Amy or Matt. What? Amy gasped. You used him. My mom added. It's not right. He's done enough for you. It's time for the two of you to figure things out on your own. Matt's face turned bright red. He stood up and pounded his fist on the table. Are you serious? You're really going to cut us off like this? After everything? Everything? I repeated. Matt, the only thing you've done consistently is lose money at the casino and make promises you can't keep. You want support? Start supporting yourself. He glared at me, then at my parents. You're all a bunch of selfish. Careful, I interrupted. I stood up and took a step toward him. This is what's going to happen. You're going to hand over the car keys, or I'm going to make sure you leave here in an ambulance. Your choice. Matt froze. For once, he didn't have a comeback. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the keys, and threw them on the table. Smart move, I said. Amy was still crying, but my parents weren't moving. My dad crossed his arms. You need to leave now. Both of you. You can't do that, Amy cried. You're our parents. And Ethan is our son too, my mother replied. You've used him long enough. Matt looked like he was going to argue, but he must have realized he was outnumbered. He grabbed Amy's arm and they both stormed out. I heard them muttering as they hailed a cab. After they were gone, the room felt lighter. My parents finally seemed to understand how bad things had gotten. We should have done this years ago, Dad said with a sigh. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself, Ethan. It was the first time I'd ever heard him say that. I wasn't expecting it, but it hit me harder than anything else that night. The morning after the family dinner, I went straight to Amy and Matt's house to pick up the car. I half expected them to try some last-minute stunt, but when I got there, Matt was just standing on the porch with his arms crossed, glaring at me like he wanted to burn a hole through my skull. He didn't say anything as I took the keys from him and got into the car. Amy wasn't even outside. Maybe she couldn't face it. I started the engine, rolled down the window and gave Matt one last look. This was never supposed to be a permanent arrangement. You should have planned for this day. He didn't respond, just clenched his jaw and watched me drive away. I sold the car later that day, handed the title to the buyer, and felt a small wave of relief. Another piece of their entitlement gone. But of course, people like Matt and Amy don't back down that easily. My phone buzzed that afternoon. It was my mom. I could hear the tension in her voice. Ethan, we need to talk, she said. What's going on? I asked, although I already had a sinking feeling. Your sister and Matt have been calling us nonstop since this morning. They're threatening to cut us off from the kids. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Let me guess, they're saying that if you don't convince me to keep sending them money, they won't let you see your grandchildren anymore. Exactly, Mom replied. They're trying to hold the kids over our heads like leverage. Matt even had the nerve to tell us that if we don't stop you from selling the car and cutting them off, we'll never see them again. I wasn't surprised. Matt was predictable, always using manipulation and threats to get his way. What did surprise me was how calm my mother sounded about the whole thing. Let me talk to him, I offered, already getting heated. No need. My dad cut in, taking over the call. We've got it covered. There was a calm steeliness in his voice that I hadn't heard in a long time. They think they have the upper hand, but they're forgetting one key detail. We're the reason they even have a house to live in. I froze. Wait, what? You didn't know? Dad said. About 5 years ago, Amy and Matt couldn't qualify for a mortgage. We co-signed, paid most of the down payment, and have been quietly helping with the mortgage ever since. If they pull this stunt, all we have to do is stop paying and the bank will take the house. I sat back and let it sink in. All this time I thought I was the only one keeping them afloat. Apparently, my parents had done just as much, if not more. What did they say when you told them? I asked. They freaked out, Mom said, and I could almost hear her smirk. Amy started crying and said we couldn't possibly do this to them. Matt tried to bluff, saying we'd never go through with it. But when we made it clear that we could and would sell the house, they quickly backed down. Damn, I said, laughing. You really gave them a reality check, huh? We had to, Dad replied. They've been taking advantage of us for years. It's about time they faced the consequences. For the first time in a long time, I felt like we were all on the same page. My parents weren't going to let Amy and Matt manipulate them anymore, and neither was I. Good, I said. They've been getting away with it for too long. After that call, there was silence from Amy and Matt. No more angry texts, no more guilty phone calls. I guess they realized their threats weren't going to work anymore. Still, something told me this wasn't over. People like Matt didn't give up that easily. There would be more games, I just didn't know when or how. But at least this time I wasn't facing it alone. A few days later, my mother called again. I expected her to tell me that Amy and Matt were still sulking, but what she said took me completely by surprise. Ethan, your dad and I have come to a decision, she began. We're selling the house where Amy and Matt live. I sat up straight. You're what? Seriously? Yes. We talked about it, and agreed that they need a real wake-up call. We're going to sell the house and give them $10,000 as a cushion, just enough to get back on their feet. But that's it. No more handouts. They're going to have to figure out how to make it on their own from now on. For a second, I thought I had misheard. My parents had always bent over backwards for Amy. I'd never seen them put their foot down like this. I mean, these were the same people who had quietly co-signed for her house, paid bills behind the scenes, and made excuses for her and Matt's behavior for years. Well, I finally said. I didn't expect you to go this far. Mom sighed. We should have done this a long time ago, Ethan. We thought we were helping them, but all we did was make them dependent on us. Matt has become lazy and entitled. Amy won't stand up to him because she's always had a safety net. It's time for them to learn what it's like to be responsible for themselves. And you're really going to give them 10 grand? I asked, still trying to process. Yes, Dad chimed in. It's a gesture to show that we're not abandoning them. We still care about them, but they need to know that respect and gratitude aren't optional. If they want to keep their relationship with us, they have to stop taking advantage of everyone. Damn, I muttered. You guys are going nuclear on them. We have to, Dad said firmly. They didn't take us seriously until we threatened to sell the house. And if they pull another stunt, we're prepared to cut ties completely. Frankly, I was impressed. My parents had finally reached a breaking point. They weren't just supporting me, they were sending a clear message that Amy and Matt had burned too many bridges. It felt good to know that I wasn't the only one holding them accountable anymore. So when are you going to tell them? I asked. Tomorrow, Mom replied. We're going to give them the $10,000 and explain that once the house is sold, they're on their own. No more money, no more bailouts. They're going to have to learn to budget and live within their means. I couldn't stop smiling after that phone call. For the first time in years, I felt like my parents had my back. They weren't falling for Amy and Matt's guilt or manipulation anymore. They were taking a stand, and frankly, it was about time. Later that night, I told Lauren what had happened. She grinned and said, "See? Your parents are stronger than you thought. They just needed the right push. Next, Amy and Matt have a complete meltdown when they hear the news. Let me know when you want that part." The next day, my parents called a meeting with Amy and Matt to break the news. I wasn't there, but I heard all the juicy details afterwards. Mom didn't sugarcoat anything when she recapped the meltdown for me later that night. Apparently, it all started out civil enough. Amy and Matt showed up, probably thinking this was going to be a negotiation. Maybe they thought my parents would apologize and offer more money to make things right. They had no idea what to expect. Dad didn't waste any time. He told them in no uncertain terms that they were selling the house. As soon as those words left his mouth, Amy lost it. "What? You're selling our house? You can't do that. This is where our children live," she screamed. "You don't own this house, Amy," Dad reminded her. "We do. And we've decided to sell it. We'll give you $10,000 to help you move and start over, but that's it. After that, you're on your own." Apparently, Amy started crying right then and there. "You're kicking us out? How could you do this to us? We're family." Matt was furious. He jumped up from his seat and started pacing. "You can't do this. You think you have all the power just because you pay the bills? That's not right. We have children to think of." Dad didn't flinch. "You should have thought about your children before you spent all your money gambling and relying on us to keep you afloat." Mom chimed in. "We've supported you for years, Matt. It's time for you to take some responsibility. We're done financing your lifestyle." Matt tried another angle. "You really want to tear this family apart over money? Fine, but if you do, you'll never see your grandchildren again." That was when things reached a boiling point. My mother told me later that she'd never been angrier in her life. She stood up and pointed her finger at Matt. "Don't you dare threaten us with the kids," she said coldly. "We bent over backwards for you too, and this is how you repay us? If you think you can blackmail us, you're wrong. Go ahead, cut us off. But don't expect a penny from us ever again." Dad backed her up. "If you try that stunt, we'll sell the house faster than you can pack a suitcase. You'll have nothing. And don't think for a second that Ethan or anyone else is going to bail you out." Amy broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. "Please don't do this, Dad. Mom, we have nowhere to go." Matt, realizing he was backed into a corner, tried to back away. "Look, maybe we can figure something out. We just need a little more time. I'm about to get a new job." "Spare us the excuses." Dad cut him off. "We've heard it all before. You've been making promises for years, and we've been giving you chances. We're done." Amy was hysterical now, begging my parents to reconsider. She begged them not to sell the house, saying they couldn't survive without help. But my parents were adamant. They told her they were doing this to teach her and Matt a lesson to stop them from dragging everyone down with their irresponsibility. After a long, tense silence, Matt finally threw up his hands. "Fine," he muttered. "We'll take the 10 grand. But don't expect us to come crawling back when the going gets tough." "We won't," Dad replied calmly. "But if you ever want to have a real relationship with us again, you'll have to earn it through respect." Mom told me that after they left, she and Dad felt drained, but also relieved. It was as if they'd finally broken free from years of manipulation and guilt. When she finished telling me all this, I shook my head in disbelief. "I can't believe you actually stood up to them like that. I mean, I'm damn impressed, but damn. Ethan, it wasn't easy," she admitted. "But it had to be done. They'll never learn if we keep bailing them out. We had to draw the line somewhere." "I'm proud of you both," I said. "You finally did what had to be done. Hopefully this will be the wake-up call they need." "We hope so too," Dad added. But even if it doesn't, at least we won't let them control us anymore. And neither should you. That was the moment I realized something important. I wasn't just free of Amy and Matt's control. My parents were too. They had finally broken the cycle. A few months went by and things finally started to settle down. After all the chaos of selling the house, Amy and Matt had no choice but to adapt. They moved into a small rented apartment across town. From what I heard, Matt finally got a job, nothing fancy, just a warehouse position, but for once he was working consistently. I admit, I didn't expect him to stick with it, but so far he has. My parents have been true to their word. They haven't given Amy or Matt a dime since that final showdown. It's been hard on them, no doubt, but they're getting by. I think being cut off from the easy money has forced them to grow up. Then, out of the blue, Amy called me. I hadn't heard from her since the night I took the car. At first I didn't know what to expect. Maybe more drama, or maybe another attempt to make me feel guilty. But to my surprise, she sounded different, calmer, almost modest. "Hey Ethan," she began. I just wanted to apologize." I didn't say anything for a second, letting her continue. "I've been thinking a lot about the way I treated you. You didn't deserve the things I said to you. You were always there for me, and I took advantage of that. I'm really sorry." I could tell she meant it. This time there was no hidden agenda, no sob story, no manipulation. Just a genuine apology. "Thank you," I finally said. "I appreciate you saying that." She hesitated for a moment. I miss having my brother in my life. We used to be close, and I want to fix that. I know things have to be different now, but I want us to have a normal relationship again." I took a deep breath and let the words sink in. I wasn't mad at her anymore, not really. I'd already moved on from all the resentment. But I knew things couldn't go back to the way they were. There were limits now, and I wasn't going to play the role of fixer anymore. "I miss having a sister too," I admitted. "But things have to be different. I'm here if you want to talk or catch up, but I'm not going to support you financially anymore. That part of our relationship is over." "I know," she said quietly. "And I'm not asking for that. I just want to start over." It felt good to hear those words. I knew it wouldn't be an instant fix. We had a lot of years of bad habits to undo, but it was a step in the right direction. We've been talking again since that phone call. Slowly but surely, we're rebuilding our relationship. Amy is more grounded now, and honestly, it's a relief. It feels like I have a real sister again, not someone who just sees me as a bank account. As for Matt, I don't hear much from him. I'm okay with that. As long as he keeps working and stays out of trouble, I don't really care what he does. He's Amy's problem to deal with now, not mine. My parents are happier too. Without all the stress of constantly bailing Amy and Matt out, they've had more time to focus on themselves. They've even started traveling a bit, something they always put off before. We've all learned some hard lessons, but I think we're better for it. And me? I feel free. My life is my own again. I'm saving for the future, growing my business, and starting a family with Lauren. It took years of frustration and a hell of a lot of drama to get here, but I'm finally in a place where I can breathe. Family is complicated, always will be, but for the first time I feel like we're all finally moving forward.